Ladies and gentlemen, we love that you are joining us here and we hope that you could do us a favor. If you are liking our episodes, please share them. Tell us that you like them. Leave us a review and we will be eternally grateful.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wizard and the Priestess. Wizard doing wizardy things. Priestess, priestessing.
Accurate.
Wizard, take it away.
Take it away.
Joke of the week.
Oh, actually, this one's quite relevant. Why, Nuala, don't anteaters get sick?
Anteaters?
This is fact checked.
Oh, because they got a stuffy nose, a long nose?
Because they're full of antibodies.
Oh, gosh. How do you find these? Like, where's the archive? It must be a massive archive.
It's just wizard shit.
It feels like, I just feel like you keep giving.
I am to please. You're welcome.
Yeah, wow, it's pretty full on. But anyway, so good. All right. Talking about anteaters and antis bodies or ant bodies or whatever you.
Antibodies. Is that what you trying to say?
I don't know. Why do people get sick, Matt?
Well, there's many theories out there, isn't there, Nuala? The most popular one among Westerners is germ theory. That's the one we're sold on. That's the reason for the medical system is based essentially around germ theory.
Well, more the pharmaceutical industry, right?
Well, how do you separate them? Because like a doctor's education is primarily funded the majority of a doctor's education is funded by pharmaceuticals.
That is correct, Matt.
Thank you.
That is where it all goes wrong.
Well, that's got its place, but that theory says that microorganisms from the environment invade our bodies, and that's where disease comes from.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Pretty much the entire medical model.
Yes.
It's a different drug for every organism.
Yes.
There's also terrain theory, which is I know there's heaps of different forms of terrain theory. I think essentially it's just about your immune system. And if you can get your inner terrain healthy, then that's enough to fight off the lions and tigers and bears that want to eat you.
I would say that terrain theory is less about fighting anything and deeply accepting that everything is part of the soul's journey. So everything is part and parcel. So when you have an overgrowth of something, it's actually serving you rather than being a hindrance.
Yeah, rather being something that's going to try and kill you, there is something there for you. At worst, it's a lesson. It's a teacher.
Yeah, I think the idea is that the microbes and the germs and the bacteria and the fungi and all of these things are actually there to help your body. So there's the terrain itself is helping you. So when you're in the natural environment, all of these pieces come together and they nourish you. They don't, they're not working against your system. So I would say more the immune system part would probably be like it depends how you look at it. So the Western or the germ theory model would be that the immune system is being attacked, and in its attack, we need to create a stronger fight and defense back against it. So it's currently being attacked and we need to put up a fight and we need to protect what is inside. Whereas terrain theory is saying that what what we see as the attack is actually the resolution. Something has been resolved because those microorganisms are now in and helping to clear out. And it's or clear out the toxicity or help the body do the work that it needs to find equilibrium again, which is balance and health. But it's really interesting in studying health for all these years. There's always the common conversation that our DNA, we are more bacteria than we are our own DNA.
By a factor of 10.
Right. So if that's the case, then how can we be sold on one theory, or the theory that all bacteria, and that's the thing, not all bacteria are bad. They're only bad when they build up in a certain way. It's like, well,
but you need the bad bacteria as well, but it's about the ratio in what you need it to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't tell you that in the ads.
No, but it's also then we start sitting in that idea of like, well, we're so analytical. So we're like, okay, but is it enough? Have I got enough of the good? So let's add some probiotics in, or let's add the next thing in, or let's adjust the diet and like build up the digestive system in a certain way. We've talked about that enough, but it kind of comes into play. So coming back to that first question, why do some people get sick and others don't?
Well, what if they're both not accurate? What's the biology view you were saying?
A biological view would be
like on a biological answer to terrain or germ theory.
Biologically, they would work with terrain, and it would come from the perspective that when you have a illness that is playing out, you are in a resolution phase, and that resolution phase means that you have solved whatever problem, or you are in the solving of that problem, hence the experience. And the body then kind of calls upon these practices of, like, say, a snotty nose to like clear it out, or a cough to move it through. And that everything is correlated with the psyche, what's going on in your brain, which is mental, emotional, the physical body, which is the organ, as well as the tissue itself.
In the biology thing, does psyche have a definition type thing?
There are a few definitions, but it sort of comes from that soul path that is the human need, or the organism's need for survival, or aim for survival. So why do people get sick, Matt?
Hey, well, start.
Because personally, I find it really hard now, having known, like, connected to more terrain theory and biology reasoning, and I find it really difficult to look at germ theory the same way. And I found that really difficult through the whole COVID pandemic. I found it very difficult, and even more like affirming for me that say vaccines, for example, are a quick fix that doesn't work.
Well, not only was it causing alarm bells, but if you even spoke it out loud, you were cast as an outsider and you were cancelled and all these things. I mean, that should be enough. And it's funny because I was in that period, I was treating an elderly lady from Poland and another one, two from Russia. And they were living in Russia and Poland during like communist times. And I said, what's your take on this whole thing? And she said, it's exactly like it was. This right now is why we left Russia, or why we left Poland. It's exactly the same setup.
Yeah.
So
what was happening?
Well, it's just the dictating control. It's the mind games of how to control people. And I mean, that's episode in itself. But let me throw something to you. metaphorically.
Mm-hmm.
What if all disease as we know it comes from being burnt out on every single level?
Okay, so burnout is when our body has not got enough resources to function well.
Accurate.
So then, if illness was only because of that, we could say that, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense in terms of, say, a common cold often hits the person that isn't necessarily looking after themselves from a germ theory perspective. A common cold from a terrain theory perspective would hit someone that has been experiencing something that helped to resolve a problem that that has existed for them. So that could happen, like that resolution could probably happen after they've been working on it.
Okay. Emotional burnout. Because emotional burnout will wipe out the physical body, and it'll draw up all its resources.
Yeah, because that would work even more potently. That's going to have even more of an impact on a person, because we don't realize how much resources our mental function needs.
Well, what about our mental burnout then? So let's just say they're separate for topic's sake.
Like emotional and mental are separate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
So then you've got, yeah, that's what you were saying then.
well, just for the
Yes.
sake of the
For the sake of
yeah.
a whole. Yeah. So, yeah. So mental burnout would come from I guess, an overthinking or a rumination of something, and then obviously not having enough resources to continue. But then what would that look like from your perspective? What would an
Well,
illness
mental
or a disease?
burnout is like, let's just say, so you've been to uni, you've taken an exam. How tired were you after that exam?
Yeah, pretty tired.
Mentally. So you're mentally like gone.
Yeah.
Now, even the next thought of you having to do something, let's say it's go to the gym, look after the kids, meet the parent, like whatever it is, the next thought even is enough to physically wear you out, because it's the last thing that you physically want to do.
Mm.
Now, compound that little by little, day by day, etc. The emotional burnout, just being overwhelmed, let's say, you're taking on everyone else's stuff. So you're already holding everyone else's stuff for them in your little subconscious story. The physical kind of explains itself. We've spoken about that first couple of episodes, especially. Now, if you mentally don't have the resources to function, what's the first thing that your kind of body tells you to do? Your first thought is, oh, I just need a nap. So when you're learning something new for the first time, it wears you out physically, because the mind is the builder of the reality. Now, what about a spiritual burnout?
Yeah, I think I'd like you to expand on that.
Would you like me to divulge? Well, a spiritual burnout, or let's say a spiritual problem, would be someone who knows they should do something or need to do something for themselves, and they just don't do it. They consciously don't do it for themselves.
Mm.
That's a spiritual problem. Now, again, add days, months, weeks, years on top of that. What does that do mentally? What does that do emotionally? And what's the end product physically?
Mm.
So a lot of people will treat medicine as, we're just matter. That's it. But the psyche and matter can't really be separated, because we have emotions, we have thoughts, we are spirit, but we treat one end of the spectrum. All these unconscious stories are driving our thoughts and our beliefs, and ultimately our behaviors, and they have a good grasp on our reality. They can't be separated. It's the ego that plays that game, the conscious mind that plays that game. But it's the consciousness within, like the soul. It's singing to you all the time. But then we go back to social influences, family influences, social media people, pretty much everyone except our podcast, who has like an agenda, but their agenda might not be a conscious agenda. It might just be all that they know. That's like a lot of family stuff. And with that starts the long story of wearing down a human body little by little, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. And then next minute, something in the world happens, or you kick your toe, or something stressful occurs, you don't have the resources.
Mm.
And your physical condition starts spiraling a certain way. So what's the pill you take for that?
Yeah, well then you already, like, chronic illness is such a buzzword in the medical system, that they're already, they're already trying to build upon all these things, when actually we need to catch it so much sooner, because of all the things, because we're not actually looking after our bodies in balance and equilibrium, because of the way that we live so against what our biological norm would be. And it's interesting how, I obviously, like we know, I've been studying men and women, and men essentially meant to be running a lot,
Like physically
like
running.
physically, or like they might not have to run, they could be using their brain, but they essentially meant to be moving their body a lot
Well,
every day.
humans are set up to be the ultimate endurance animals
Mm.
on the planet.
Yeah, like we're not meant to be stronger. We're not the strongest animals, but we are. I think I've read this about, we're community animals. We're meant to be able to work together, hence using our, like, more than, like, what is that analogy? Like one brain, like many brains is better than one. And the whole point is that that is how we got ahead. That's how we got ahead of the game. That's how potentially we slaughtered the what are they called, the mega animals.
Oh,
And
the mammoths and the dinosaurs.
yeah, and like because they were slow, they weren't these fast things, but then humans actually worked together as a team, where the animals don't necessarily work together as a team. And we figured out, oh, we could just kill one of these slow moving animals, and now we have cows. you
Well,
know
it's a really cool story about how dogs were domesticated, and
oh yeah, go.
we took wolf pups and trained them and all that kind of thing. Where probably a more interesting theory is that the wolves were seeing what we were doing, and they knew we were very efficient killers, but it took the time to track the animal. The wolves could find the animal, no problem, but then taking it down.
Mm.
They led early humans to the animals and then got a little reward at the end.
Yeah, and then they probably are programmed to loyalty, and then we're able to bring them into being loyal part of our pack, because humans would have been able to watch how they worked together as well, and then utilized their knowledge with our own. It's humans are pretty profound. Like we know this because of the technology advancements that we're seeing today.
I think that word
When it
profound
comes,
goes to either side of the scale as well.
absolutely, but I think I mean I choose to believe that, like, there are mad scientists out there, but I really believe in the spirit power of a human, and that we can choose how we want to view it. And I'm choosing, not naively necessarily, but I'm choosing to see the power and the positivity that can come with any form of technology, right now we are using like pretty magical, like I was speaking about before, microphones and computers where I'm talking to you in another space in real time through nothing but air, like nothing but a vibration. So
Nothing but air and
coming like
microwaves.
being yeah, but like being really conscious of like that technology and the power that it provides us. So when it comes down to like when we look back, when we bring ourselves back to this idea of terrain theory and germ theory, it's like I think the thing where germ theory comes unstuck is this thing that, you know, for millennia, humans have lived together in packs and have never been afraid of each other. And now, all of a sudden, in recent years or 100, probably 50 years since industrialization of humans, we now are afraid of the pack. We are now more afraid of like that kid that has the green snotty nose or whatever, instead of being conscious of maybe, I mean, it could be the burnout of the child because they're not having enough time with their mother. It could be that they're not eating enough of the right foods. It could be the fact that they, you know, separated from their mum in the morning and they really needed their mum that day, and they got this sickness because they saw their mum again and they were able to resolve that conflict and they were able to feel good again. And now I've got mum back in my eyesight. So now I've got conjunctivitis because now I can like replenish that pain, that longing that I had. And now I can replenish that aspect because the fact that humans literally need each other, like we literally need each other to survive and live. Like we, whilst we, I too believe that technology is going to help us back to the community living, back to the village, back to being a pack of 100 people, or you know, we'll never be fully 100 people because we live on in technology, and like you can still be part of my pack even though you're in Sydney and I'm up here.
Thanks, mate.
Like there's this, but I do really believe that technology like batteries is going to help us become, you know, we're going to become fuel efficient compactly, which is going to allow us to be more self-sufficient in the way that we live. But it's also, I hope and believe that there's the potential that we can come back to that community thinking. And I live in a little village, right? So there's community conversation all the time. What do we want for our community? How do we want this? Come be involved. It's like once you live anywhere where that your voice is no longer heard, your voice is no longer a purpose, there you are just on the treadmill waiting for the burnout and more likely to be unwell. And is it because you're not breathing fresh air or you're being microwaved by all the Wi-Fi? And can you imagine how many conversations are being had around your building right now? For me, there's no one for a kilometer. So like the only radio waves that are essentially moving right now in this house is mine. Or like you know, the only vibes that are like vibrating through through the atmosphere to you is me in my close proximity. So we can kind of is it that we're just lacking connection and purpose, which then impacts our burnout if we're like trying to be a part of something that we're never going to be truly a part of unless we have the village, unless we do like pull into those smaller communities. I've taken this in a bit of a different direction, but
You have. That's
it's
usually
sort
what I
of
do. This is how it feels. Okay. That's
yeah.
it's
So now
interesting you
you
say that
like
because that
grapple.
creates a energetic pull, like a desire. It opens,
Mm,
it creates a vacuum and opens a hole up. And if that's not filled, you start to stress about it,
mm,
which puts further fatigue into the system. Let me, Nuala, put some things to you as potential starts to disease.
mm.
Give me 1, 2, maybe 3/4. First one,
Okay.
genetic predisposition.
Okay, so I have a bit of a nuanced view on this now, and I would say that I am less inclined to believe that there is a genetic predisposition to most things, to nearly anything. But it could be seen as that because of what environmental factors are at play during a period of huge growth, i.e., during a period of a woman's own. I mean, and this is where we go back through ancestral, right? I don't know whether you're coming to that, but like this whole ancestral experiencing that impacts the flow on. So, me as a zygote, no, me as an egg inside of my mother's womb, inside of her mother's womb, growing. So I then was impacted by the potential repercussions of that pregnancy, and then I became a primordial egg, and then became an actual egg that was ovulated and found my dad's sperm and became a human, and then was born, all of the things. So in those periods of time of actual growth, so when I'm becoming an egg inside of my mother's womb, inside of her sac, and then when I'm going through pubescence, the huge transition of that where I'm actually coming online, and those things have a massive. So where I'm trying to get to is like the genetic implication could be more related to the implication that I'm having in a big growth state during those periods of time where the eggs in the ovaries are actually being awoken to what's going on in the environment around the woman. The same is true for a man, but there's less extension because the sperm only survives for a maximum of 80 days in the sac. So whilst they carry the genetic DNA forever, the actual formation is only within that time. So genetic predisposition feels like it's more going to be more about the trauma or the perception of that trauma that is going to have a play on, or is going to have an impact to the
Yeah,
health of.
I think the amount of times I've had patients come in who said, I've got sore back, sore this, digestive stuff, whatever the label is. I've got it because my mum has it, or my dad had it, or my granddad had it, or whatever that. For me, that's a cop out. That's someone who's not owning their shit. I
Well,
know
we've got to take responsibility.
exactly.
And it's very easy to then pass it on to, well, these genes were passed to me, so I'm just going to keep wearing them.
Yep.
Well, we know that's bullshit too because of epigenetics. It's like it's not actually the way.
No.
But we've been sold that too.
I think we have a genetic predisposition to something, but I don't think it. I think statistically, it was 3 to 5%. Now they've changed it to 0.5 to 3% disease genetic in origin, and they usually show up before the age of 12.
Yeah, cool. And I want to add to that. Why did Uncle Pete, who smokes a pack a day, drinks like a fish, like drinks alcohol like a fish, eats pizza most nights or TV dinners, live to 100? He had the same genetics, essentially. Like, obviously, there's different pieces to that puzzle, but
What kind of fish drink alcohol?
Uncle Pete. But like, this is where like he mightn't survive a really traumatic event because of what the position he's got himself into, but he's doing quite fine doing what he's doing.
So he'll live to his 100. He'll live to his 100 because he smokes and drinks and does all the things. But he'd probably live to 200 if he didn't.
Potentially.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the second thing?
Number 2, Miss Nula. The miasm, which is an energetic imprint from a past life. Thoughts? This is becoming quite popular for a lot of people, especially at the start of this year. A lot of people came in with a sore back or some kind of illness. Oh, I got this because in a past life I was that, or whatever that story is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't truly want to connect to something that may have happened in a past life. However, I have been leaning towards what's known as family constellation, especially by a man named Tiziano Seguero, and he talks a lot about the potential of carrying over family maps that are not, yeah, family maps that are essentially past lives or not past lives, but your soul family lineage that is, yeah, having an implication on you today. And that is more on a functional sense. So, what's been hidden in families in the past has a flow on for the future. So it's not necessarily the soul that lived in the past that then had this experience that had a sore back and now has a sore back because they were once they were once a gardener doing hard, heavy duties work with a sore back, and now they're a human in this life. It's not that, it's more the soul family experience. Something has been hidden and then repressed, and that could has the potential to show up in some way or form to today.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will see the past life thing as the soul wanting to experience everything. So last life you're a slave owner. This life you're going to be the slave type. Energetic
Yeah. Okay.
balancing out
So
type
slightly
thing.
different to the constellation stuff. So more, yeah,
I've got a curveball for all of that though.
yeah. And I think that in terms of past life experiencing, I understand that the soul wants to come back and experience. I just wonder if they choose to have sore lower back pain or something.
No, they'd choose something fucked up.
Yeah, more like I want to go out with a bang.
We came into this one with a bang, so why not go out with one?
Let's
Well,
fuck shit up.
here's my curveball because I want to hear what your thought is. We only
Mm.
perceive a past life according to linear time.
Mm.
Linear time is a human concept. You go outside the field of mind and time into time space from space time. Now, every past life regressionist I've spoken to or hypnotherapist I've spoken to, they've all said the same thing, that all the past and future present lives are happening right now.
Mm.
So how does the past life thing compare? Are we jumping timelines? I think how time works at its actual in its actuality, I don't think a human mind can comprehend that because there's too many paradoxes.
Yeah, so I would say to that potentially it is a past life, but it's happening. It could be a life. We could use the word past life,
Well, that's
but
what
is
I guess our third density minds would. That's
can
how
function.
we can perceive it
Mm.
in that.
So it's just a life that the soul has lived. I wonder if that is the way. I don't know. I haven't really put too much thought or energy towards it, but I thinking now how I feel that the soul family that I've been a part of, yeah, is kind of living out different timelines all at the same time. Is that how we can timeline leap? How we can like change things exponentially into something so different to what was? And is that like like an adjustment in is that adjustment in perception? Because I was speaking with someone yesterday about they were speaking with a lady. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but she was talking about that you've already lived this day. So when you start to get those nudges to like look at something more clearly, it's because your soul already knows this day. So they're reminding you of what to do. Now that's different to past life, which would be more that you are living this a completely different scenario in this moment in time.
Because I remember I read. Have you read the book by the lady Dolores Cannon, Conversations with Nostradamus?
No.
He was essentially, I don't know if channeling is the word, but Nostradamus came through several of the people she was working with. Now they were in hypnosis. They were in hypnosis on her couch, but they were all essentially. First time she did it, the lady in a past life was a student of Nostradamus in, was it 1500s France, whenever it was, and Nostradamus was having like a simultaneous conversation in real time with her at the time. And over and over in the books, there's 3 books, he kept saying, I need you to know and understand that I'm actually alive right now in 15th century France. I think she wrote those books in the 2000s, but whenever it was. But there's 3 volumes where she was actually having conversations with him in real time, but in the past.
How does that impact the butterfly effect? It's not real. Butterfly effect isn't actually a thing.
Could you say the butterfly effect is like a karma generator in a way?
So if you're doing something though in 1500 soul map type soul life living, and then you're spoken to it in a channel, and and you've shared from the 2000s to say, hey, you know what, like 2025, you know what, this AI thing's a bit interesting. Can you like start to implement something in the 1500s? And then all of a sudden, do we wake up tomorrow morning and we're living in a different body? Like,
But that would require, well, they didn't have the technology. So I can see your point, and I'm seeing the argument point, and neither of them make sense.
Yeah, so I wonder just how
That'd be
could
a
that
cool
impact
movie,
our
though.
health? It would be a great movie. Isn't that called The Time Traveler, Time Traveler's Wife or something? But isn't the we could kind of speculate that there is some form of implication on that.
I would say it's already been done, likely. Not with AI per se, maybe AI, I don't know. But certain people working for certain corporations, I have zero doubt would be involved in that black magic.
Yeah, but could it just like if we're thinking about past life stuff and past life regressionists and people that connect to their own past life experience, that if we understand that it's functioning or happening at the same time as now, the now that we think is now, then there must be some form of implication from tapping into that channel.
Yeah.
I wonder if whether that is a health implication or not. And I guess from the biological understanding that I've been learning with Dr. Sasha Tiesic, I'd say that it's not. There would be like a minimal impact. However, what you were saying before in that burnout idea of sickness, that you could draw upon this idea of being exhausted, in this life and moment in time because of the depth or experiencing that is going on.
Yeah. I mean, picture social influence, some people religious influences, diet, lifestyle, current
I'm just thinking,
current life circumstances.
yeah, I'm just thinking, right? If we are a soul playing out different timelines at the same time, then there's a lot. That's a lot. It's
That's I mean, everything you can imagine already exists. That's the saying, like in a mystic tradition.
mm,
So whatever
yeah,
you can
well,
imagine it's happening, and it is happening somewhere at some place at some time. Whether
yeah,
we align our third density yellow ray conscious minds to it is a completely different topic altogether. We're tuned in to this particular reality. So our other instruments, like it would be no doubt would be happening instead of me
right
talking
now.
here. I'm riding a horse or flying as a bird. Like the possibilities are endless. But my instruments aren't tuned into that particular frequency.
Mm. But where you are tuned into that frequency, there is you as Soul Matthew Wizard happening, right?
Well, it's all happening.
Yeah, but like there is something that's tuned into that experiencing. So would you say that when you have dreams, like could you connect to that that other worldly, other timeline type stuff?
I'm sure you could. I
But
don't.
is that what past life regressionists are doing?
Well, so I think I don't know if it's scientifically valid, but I know that at least the concept is that whatever we go through at any given time, whether we're conscious of it or not, we record the energetic imprint of that into our beingness. Absolutely everything. So if something happens, let's say you and I are having a cup of tea and a yellow car goes past, we might think, oh, there's a yellow car. Forget about it instantly. Go back to drinking tea. But our subconscious records the visceral experience we had of that, how it made us feel, how it did make us feel. Our unconscious mapped a very detailed analysis of that, put it in the storage bank. And then that experience now is a part of you. So it makes sense to me that we take that everywhere and every time we go. Because isn't it funny how you're drawn to certain places and things where other people are drawn to other certain places, people, and things?
Yeah, and you could also suggest, like, I really like that idea, and I think that comes in pretty well to the idea of what we've spoken about before about allergies. You know, if you're in an experience, if we were drinking tea and then that yellow car crashed in front of us, that tea might have, like, and someone were to die, right in front of us, that would have become a traumatic experience for us, the onlookers. And then, you know, whatever were to happen there, but then that tea and that place and maybe roads, and then all of a sudden we would have a trauma response to those experiences every time we were in that experience again. So there is that coding. That's, I think, what you're
That's the
suggesting.
storage in the nervous system. Now let's just go with the T car crash thing. Now let's say that happened today and we're a bit shaken up by it. Now let's say we get to live till we're 80, 90, pretty much relatively short time after that incident occurred. It would be in our conscious memory, but then it would fade a little. And then life happens in linear time as we perceive it in this current form. And then we either have the same tea or it's the same temperature, the same direction of breeze, or we see a yellow car, maybe even the same car, and it can wake everything up, that specific response. Then we go straight back to that fight flight thing. Now that thing's been woken up. Now, in the meantime, let's say we've had breakups, we've lost people, diet hasn't been the best, unhappy with life circumstances, not certain life circumstances, not all of them. I'm just trying to think of the average person. Poorly designed movement, i.e., exercise or whatever your movement thing is. There's a few things that you're doing that aren't lining up with who you are as a person, and then that memory happens and draws all of your resources up, out, or however that works. And it just lights up. Your nervous system lights up like a Christmas tree. So we all have our own strategy. So Nuala, you might get chronic headaches. I might get back pain. Someone else will get a sore knee. Someone else might develop cancer. Someone else might get IBS or whatever. Someone else might form depression or get chronic anxiety. So it's pick your poison type thing. We've all got our own subconscious strategy. And
Can I share something in that? That subconscious patterning or that subconscious strategy that you just spoke of that is seemingly unknown.
mm,
That is what Dr. Heimer of like Germanische Heilkunde has shared is quite specific. So the perception of what happened, how you perceived or experienced that with all of your, okay, so put aside all the pieces of the puzzle that you just put together, the exercise regime and all those pieces, like the experience of the human body as a human vessel body. Put them to the side for the moment. But in that moment of experiencing that crash, what your perception of that was has a very particular play out. So if you perceived that to be you could have died, scare fright, you will have a play out that runs the lung
mm,
tissue, and that will have a particular function, and you will potentially get lung cancer if you were to look at it that way. And then let's bring in that what position the body was currently in, the vessel itself, how it was, bring that into it. That'll give you an indicator of how your body will heal from that shocking experience. Unexpected, shocking weren't that is exactly the map that Dr. Hamer actually mapped out in the brain. And he also mapped out so if you were to, the way you perceived it has a very specific way of running. So if you perceived that as as like a territorial conflict because it was your car or like that crashed and that was your territory and that was something that was very important to you and you felt that was the thing, you might find that you get skin rashes or a particular melanoma or something depending on the shock and the ability of you to downgrade that shock in your own system depending on how your nervous system is functioning already and all of what is in that basket on the side. So that is specifically Germanische Heilkunde. So it is not where I personally in the past have thought it would be, I would correlate sore knees or lower back to the kidney and the water element, and I would kind of flow with that way. It was always still a bit disjointed because it depended what was the root and what was the plant, what was the branches of that root. So it was always hard to kind of fully pinpoint. I was only basing that on the symptoms that I was identifying. Whereas Germanische Heilkunde is just like bang on. If you are running a particular tissue or germ cell, not germ theory, the germ cell of the brain that actually correlates to the exact tissue in the body.
mm.
He's mapped that out. So the brain, the psyche, and the organ tissue or the tissue of the body, that is mapped to be distinguishably connected via what your perception is of what happened. So that is why some people will have lots of skin issues because there's all this separation happening in their lives, all this conflict in regards to separation, maybe from their territory, maybe separation from something else. They might have territory conflicts because their boundaries have been crossed constantly. So in that, they're going to have particular tissue that's going to be activated. And it's quite interesting because that's like essentially what happened for Hampus was that he had this ball of things of like what had happened in his life that set him up, layers and layers and layers of that set him up to then experience a shocking experience like leaving his home country and moving to a place where he didn't feel like he belonged, that had the potential to like actually have a massive impact on him. Instead of someone like yourself who could move overseas potentially and not have that same experience because you've already had the vessel is already prepared for that and made adaptations for you to be able to to handle big stressful experiences and in a
But
healing.
also,
Yeah,
what I find stressful, he might not,
absolutely.
and vice versa.
Because that's it. That's what the vessel. That's why that's why it's always perception, and that's why we can always downgrade. I think that it's quite an interesting thing. Personally, I've always felt pretty easy-go-lucky. I always find the silver linings in most of the time, if not straight away, eventually, like quite quickly. I can generally do that quite quickly, but that's quite a masculine trait. Men tend to find that much more faster than women because women are meant to be protected by the man or the masculine, and I was not
Well,
essentially protected.
some women do, some women do not
Wait, what?
require the protection.
Right, but from that, okay, if we stand in the biological standpoint, a woman should be given that. It should be a given.
You said should. You ruined it by saying should.
Oh, you don't like that.
Try again. You'll get there.
Okay, let me restate it that
Okay, so this leads me into what
in
I was going to say.
biology. Oh yeah, go.
Perception. So you got perception.
Mm.
Now, how does that mix in with your core values and beliefs?
That's all one in the same, right?
You got the
I
perception,
would
right? Which is set up by everything else. But then how does that merge in with your own personal core values slash belief?
I would say that your perception literally runs from your core values in that moment. That's like the branch is the perception.
I'm saying, let's
Because
say it goes against, most of the time it's going to go against your core values and beliefs if there's a disease involved. Safe to say.
what are you saying?
If there's a disease involved, so remember we spoke a while back about the thought, and then that thought going against what you believe right or wrong, good, bad is. That creates a friction. That friction has tension to it, not only physical tension, but also has energetic tension. That energetic tension will then be stored somewhere. But in the
Okay.
meantime, you're living your life.
Okay, yeah, yeah. The codes. It's been coded in.
Coded, yeah.
Yeah.
And now we need AI to unlock it for us.
Maybe. Maybe
Maybe.
we just need a dream analysis, or maybe we need Tiziano to like help us like resolve the discomfort or disharmony between the way in which we could relate better to the masculine and feminine aspects of ourselves and therefore the masculine and feminine aspects of those around us. It's a really cool thing in terms of health that I'm touching on or leaning towards now is this kind of like their full like acceptance of the masculine and feminine. So how can we fully accept that? And the best way to fully accept that is to accept the first masculine and feminine role, the mother and the father.
Mhm.
And so, in accepting the mother and the father, we then can accept the masculine and feminine of ourselves. And that has been a really interesting game that I've been playing here whilst I live with my mum in, figuring out how to truly, fully, completely surrender to the deepest acceptance of who she is and every step that she took to be where she is right now and accept her fully in what she continues to be or how she continues to show up. It's been very healing and nourishing, shall I say, to have this time. And I find it quite interesting, but I would urge anyone in my position highly. Hopefully, you're never in my position. But it is definitely the silver lining of that I've been able to like cultivate something new within the relationship that was mine and my mother's relationship in practicing trying to find acceptance of her full acceptance, which is hopefully recoding those codes that I've downloaded and maintained for this lifetime, this current vessel experience.
All the past ones and then the next one all at once, right now.
Yeah. And like, surely there's a butterfly effect in that. Like, sort of has to be, right?
Well, I think when we use past lives and karma, I know people say it as a joke, but you can tell there's like for them, there's a hint of truth in.
I have a belief to that.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you don't, but I find that there's something in that for me.
yeah,
When I think of how things play out and energetically, if I can genuinely show up as the best possible person, I feel like there is like pretty potent
I
play
think
on.
any label we give something, we give power to it. And that thought has the potential to limit your potential to see the truth.
Hmm. Give me an example. So I just said something really mean and then I kicked my toe and it really hurt.
I don't see that as karma. From a comical viewpoint, 100%.
Okay,
Because I would
what
find
could
that
that
funny.
be though? That's not a bounce from the universe to say, "Oh, get back on track."
Well,
Not a
let's
That's
say
not
you say
like
something mean.
little glitch in the system that's kind of like, "Zzz,
Okay, so you
hey,
say
don't do that
something
again."
mean to me. Is that
Doesn't
what you're?
happen.
Is that what you're saying? Or
Say I
okay,
said something inappropriate.
okay,
I wouldn't be trying to be mean, but I said
it,
something inappropriate.
okay. So it would. How would you feel after saying the thing?
I felt bad. I feel bad.
That's the karma. That
And then I kicked my toe.
that pain. I guarantee that pain that you feel after saying that is worse than kicking a toe.
Yes.
There's your karma.
And you could say that because you're feeling that pain, you weren't being very aware of what was going on around you because you were busy feeling and thinking that you kicked your toe.
And maybe your higher self wanted a distraction from let's call it guilt. And the best distraction at that given time for that, when that request was put out there, was physical pain. Because for a brief moment, you forgot about the guilt. Then you got Tourette's because you kicked your toe.
And I truly believe that that is karma and that is exactly the thing that I'm talking about. And it may be that there is just like some, universal, like, okay, let's swap this around. Or it could just be that your perception is not like on point. Perfect.
But I think if you
To
say something mean and kick your toe, I don't think there's a divine energy that makes you kick your toe. That makes no sense at all to me. Because that means there's someone out there judging us. And they've decided that that's a negative thing for you to do. That's what free will's all about. Now, what if
Isn't
you
that the
said the
soul?
really mean thing? Let's say you said a really mean thing to me. I found it mean and you just didn't care.
It wouldn't impact me until I found out that you were hurt.
But let's just say you knew that would upset me. You said it on
Well,
purpose.
if I knew that it was something that would upset you, then it would impact me.
Okay, but just in a
So I'm a psychopath.
take the personal out of it. You
So
say something mean to someone,
yeah.
but there's just complete apathy from you.
So you're a psychopath.
Whatever label you want to put on it. So if you say something mean to me that I find offensive or whatever, and you just feel nothing,
Have you told me you hurt?
sure.
Okay, and I feel nothing.
And you're just like, oh, well, too bad.
And then I kick my toe.
No kicking of toes.
Karma.
But where's the karma come from?
I believe that there is the potential that even if the apathy, you don't realize whatever, you might not realize that you hurt someone or you don't care, whatever it might be, there's a build up. There's a build up of charge in that. And whether I believe it's some godly, soulful, universal thing, or whether I believe that there's a charge in that, and that charge, like I believe that when you smudge or you use smoke to clear the auric field around your body, it has the power to truly change who you are in that moment and change the whatever you were ruminating over, and the energy of you is capable of being really, really changed through using smoke around your body because of the way it adjusts the charge that is around your body.
But then you just said it. It all comes back to the belief, which is arguably the start of the disease.
Well, likely. And the thing is, there is like, I mean, if we want to put it down to this, there is like, it is scientifically proven that the ions around the body change with smoke. So whilst we might be positively charged, which is surprisingly not necessarily a good thing, we want the negative charge to neutralize. We're neutral.
Let me put it another way. What's stronger? What has more of a powerful force? The ions in the smoke or the belief, the power in the belief?
Absolutely, the power in the belief. All right, so how do we get sick, Matt?
Well, ultimately, we believe we're going to be sick. And it's a multitude of factors, but it's not, I don't think it's the microorganisms. Yes, there's microorganisms there. Are they enough to make you sick and develop a cancer, let's say? Probably not, because health and disease can't coexist. So if you're healthy, then what can't you fight off? Now, of course, there's exceptions to the rule in regards to, infant diseases and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 85% of people that have idiopathic pain or disease. They don't know where it came from.
Yeah, and so I had a few things to say, but what I think of now is maybe we need to be more conscious.
I feel like it's time we dropped the mic. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We appreciate your support, and we understand that some things might be triggering, but we also hope most things, if not all things said, they're really coming from a place hoping to inspire. So I hope you found some inspiration in what we talk about, especially tonight. If you like our podcast, please feel free to give us a 5-star review, a nice little comment, or a warm review. We hope you can find what works for you. See you next time.
You've been listening to The Wizard and the Priestess. Thanks for stopping by. Stay connected and be open.